Okay. About the AYS, African Young Scientists, is an initiative that hope to unite young, dynamic, brilliant, and innovative scientists and lay the groundwork for groundbreaking innovations that contribute to the betterment of humanity. Its mission is to foster the development of the next generation of scientists, promoting effective global collaboration. So, about the speaker, Dr. Kingsley Omage, he holds his bachelor degree at Ambrose University. He went on to University of bachelor degree in biochemistry. So he went on to obtain his master degree in biochemistry at the University of Benin. From there, he proceeded to the University Ambrose University to obtain his doctoral degree in clinical and medical biochemistry. He also had his master degree in public health at the University of Benin. He is currently a postdoctoral scholar at Oregon Health and Science University, United States. His area of research interests are renal physiology, metabolic and systematic disorders, public health nutrition, and public health care. He has many publications to his name, which mostly can be found on Google Scholar. I think that's a brief history of the speaker, Dr. Kingsley Omage.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zakar. Is it Zakar? Oh, sorry, I don't get that right. I said Zachariah, who writes. Okay. Thank you very much. Without taking much of our time, I will just proceed to our discussion for today. Let me share my screen. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. Let me have to unmute somebody to be able to get that response.
Yes, sir. We can see your screen, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
But it's not a full screen.
Oh, okay, sorry. I have to share. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So how is it now? How is it now? Is it better? Is the view better?
It's better, sir.
Okay.
But it's not full, but better.
Oh, it's not full?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Let me see.
Hello. That's not.
No. Okay. Sorry, let me think I should just do that again. Just a moment, please.
What you doing?
Okay, how is it now? Hello, how is it now?
It's same, sir, but you can go ahead. We can still do.
Oh. Yes. I'm just surprised why, let me see. I think maybe it's just, sorry. Okay, I think I'll have to start. I guess it's okay now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're talking about how to manage stress and anxiety in the lab, anxiety and stress in the lab. And I believe most of us here on this platform are researchers, scientists, irrespective of the field for our research. And there's one thing that is common to everybody, and that is anxiety and stress. Because by nature of our job, what we do every day, we cannot really avoid that. I mean, there's always that tendency to be stressed out, even to be burnt out and all that. So, and the important thing is we cannot avoid it. So you have to learn how to master, the acts and how to manage it effectively for our own good. So I'm talking about that, I'll be looking at, the anxiety and stress, what is all about, and as following the definition from the dictionary and others. Also, look at stress as a friend or as an enemy, because depends on how you view it. It can be a friend to you, and it can also be an enemy. And they are, talking about professionals or researchers, there is always this psychological, characteristics about researchers that, always, tend to, push us towards, our stressful conditions and all that. And we also talk about how to recognize this stress or how to understand them, and also how to deal with, the stress itself. And in the course of this discussion, I have some questions, that I may have to ask. And, I will definitely appreciate your response and see how you relate with the this topic in question. So we'll start by looking at what anxiety is. According to the Oxford Dictionary, anxiety is a feeling of worry, being, nervousness or, unease, and it's typically about an event that is imminent or something with an uncertain outcome. Something you cannot really tell what the outcome will be like, more like an event, something happening around you. You can't really tell what the outcome will be. But because of that uncertainty about the outcome, there is always that tendency to be nervous about, the process itself and to worry about everything. It is normal. And anxiety too can also be the desire to do something, typically, which is always accompanied by, unease, There's always that desire to do something, but then doing the thing itself can be very, very uneasy. And that can, bring about stress. And anxiety too can also be normal in stressful situations, actually. It can be normal, so it's not always, bad or, detrimental to us. It can be normal. For example, when you have to make a kind of public presentation, for example, maybe public speaking or taking a test, there is that tendency for you to be anxious about it. Oh, how will it turn out? How will I do that and everything? And also you want to take a test. No matter how prepared you are, there will always be that element of, anxiety, which is normal. But if it gets, to the extreme, it can be very, very detrimental or problematic to, to the person. And also, then talking about stress itself, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. We talk about, always the desire to do something. You are faced with a task you have to do, and you worry about it, how you're going to do that. And, worrying about that, can bring about some kind of mental, emotional strain. And it can also be very, very tense. And because of that, demanding circumstances, the stress level can increase. But then there is nothing you can do about it. The stress will always come, especially in that situation. It's just how to manage it that is, the important thing. So stress can be, a friend to you or an enemy, depending on how you manage it. When you look at stress as a friend, there's always that tendency to gravitate towards stress, like I said earlier, because there's always something to do as a researcher. I mean, you are faced with so many tasks. You think about your research, you think about what you are doing in the lab, and in fact, even normal, general life, social life, and everything. There's always something to do. And because there's always something to do, and there's always that, desire to do it well and get a very good outcome. So because of that, there's always that tendency to gravitate towards stress. And it can be as a friend because it helps you prepare better. Because thinking about it, getting a little bit stressed about how the process will go, what the outcome will be like, can push you towards doing it well. And in that sense, the stress can be act as a friend. And also, there's always that need to feel challenged because as a researcher, as a scientist, it's normal. There's always that feeling of, being challenged. You want to do something. Even when you read about things, I mean, you just want to do something. That makes you a researcher anyway. That makes you a scientist. And that need, to feel challenged can also, come with stress. And the stress itself in that, guys, will help you, you know, perform that challenging task or do it very well. So in that sense, it can be as a friend. Then also, there's always that sense of mastery. You want to master what you are doing. No matter what it is, you want to master it. No matter how difficult it seems, you want to master it. And that zeal to master what you are doing, is also accompanied with stress. And in that, guys, the stress can be very helpful because, like I said, it will help you prepare very well and, get the best out of it. I mean, it's, makes it easy for you to master whatever you want to do. Then on the other side, stress can also be as an enemy because, the tendency to, do something and do it well, you know, can also, at the point, it can also be, you can also go overboard as to get overwhelmed with the stress that is accompanying your desire to do something. So there's always a thin line between, being adequately challenged and being overwhelmed by the stress accompanying that challenge. So the important thing is how to strike the balance. So if you're unable to strike that balance, you feel overwhelmed instead of being adequately challenged, then stress in that sense can be as an enemy, so which will not be good. And also, there is always this unwillingness to think about the flip side of risk regarding to stress. When you are trying to do something and it is stressful, of course, you feel the stress accompanying what you want to do or your act is helpful. But when you are overshooting the boundaries and you don't really know, and of course, on the other side of it, there could be risk associated with that. But when you are not willing to think about this risk, then in that case, stress can be, can be an enemy, which will not be helpful for you. So, and okay, then, so apart, like I said earlier, as far as you're a researcher, you are a scientist, you've chosen to do research, you decide to do it. No matter what, it comes with some form of stress. And as a scientist, there's always this psychological thing about researchers. There's always this psychological characteristics about, accomplished researchers. And one of them is, as a researcher, no matter your level of accomplishment, yeah, I mean, there's always that tendency to be precise in everything we do. You want to stick to, accuracy. You want to be very accurate in what you're doing, everything you're doing. You want to be very accurate. You want to make sure you do it the best way you can. So there's always that tendency to be, to be a perfectionist. So that alone can come with stress because you feel, oh, you have to be perfect in everything you are doing. And without knowing, when you focus much on that, it takes a toll on you in the sense that you get stressed out and you may not even know it when you start, going overboard and all that. And there's also that feeling, to work excessively, because you feel, oh, as a researcher, oh, you have to work very hard. You have to do a lot. You have to work excessively to be able to, maybe to be able to, stay up to par with the demands of, the field and all that. There's always that, compulsion to work excessively. And also as researchers, there's always that, guilt, because most times we have a lot to do. Even at that, at times we fail to realize, okay, we've even done enough. So there's always that guilt. Oh, I've not done this, I've not done that. So we're always prone to guilt and, accusing yourself, oh, you didn't do this well, you didn't do that well. Always thinking about that, feeling guilty about whatever you're doing can also, increase the stress level, which can be very detrimental. And another interesting psychological characteristics about accomplished researchers is that we always have this overblown sense of responsibility. You just feel, oh, everything should be your responsibility. Like, oh, whatever is happening in the lab, oh, you need to order for this in the lab. You need to plan this experiment. I mean, this experiment has to work well. The methodology has to go well as planned. Everything you feel, oh, it's your responsibility to do that. Even when you have other lab members, people you work with, other research team members, there is always, that kind of mental traits where you feel, oh, you are supposed to do this. It's your responsibility to do that, to make sure, in fact, to make sure everybody is doing the right thing. And being overblown with, sense of responsibility can increase your stress level. So that's why at times you learn to delegate, task, and also learn to work with people. As even at times, some even in some research groups, for example, if maybe you are interested in working with a research group, and at times they may ask you, oh, how well do you work with people or individually? So apart from being able to work individually, you should be able to work with people, collaborate with people. And when doing that, you don't, overwhelm yourself with responsibilities, because that will not, get the best out of you. And another psychological trait or mental traits of accomplished researcher is that, or it tend to have challenges with close relations, close relationships, could be friends, could even be spouse, marital spouse, children, family members, extended and, immediate family members. So there's always that challenges, relating with them, because most times we tend to, pay more attention to the research, what we are doing, because we just want to get the best, we want to be the best, and everything. So there is always that effect, or that, adverse effect on our relationship with close, family members or colleagues and all that. And another funny detrimental thing about that is there is always a problem getting much fun out of life, because, and because I've also noticed that in the course of, my, research life, that most times, top researchers, they always have problem having fun. At times when you maybe invite them for events, social events, it's always difficult for them to honor such event, because there's always something to think about, the next grant to write, the next experiment to do, and things like that. Even if they show up for events, it's always difficult to, to catch fun or be, just enjoy yourself and all that. So there's always this mental character, character or psychological traits about researchers. And the problem with all this is that they tend to increase the stress level of, these researchers and all that. Then apart from that, how do we recognize stress? How do we recognize that? I mean, there are different models. You talk about, stimulus model, response model, relation model. Stimulus in the sense that, we've said stress can be, it can work for you, and it can also work against you. So when you look at the stimulus model, it's more like you trying to look at the positive aspect of stress, look at the friendly aspect of it, where the stress, helps to, make you do more. propels you to do the right thing or do it well, not necessarily, pushing you towards a kind of mental problems. So when you look at the positive, like for example, let's say as an artist, for example, you want to maybe you want to perform on the stage, for example, and you are tensed. You can decide to take some time, just savor the stress, try and see how you can curtail it. Once you manage it at that time, then it helps you to perform better. So always try to look at stress as a stimulus rather than as maybe a pain or so. And how you respond to stress to matters. If you're able to understand the positive aspect of stress and you respond adequately, it can help you in the long run. But if you don't respond adequately to stress, then it can be very, very problematic and even detrimental to your health. And also, how do you relate with this stress? There are some, when it comes to, stress, at times, for example, maybe somebody confronts, you have maybe something or an event, or somebody confronts you and you feel, okay, if you can think about the situation, what is the best way to relate? Are you supposed to fight, or are you supposed to run away or take a flight? So understand what works for you, because most of these things with time, I also talk about that as we go on anyway. You need to understand how you manage these situations. So once you know what works for you, then you can tell, okay, if fighting will help the situation, or if running away from it will help you. And also, how do you interact with this, the stressful situation? And it has to do with your mind and body. How does it affect your mind? How does it affect your body? If whatever stress it is will affect your mind negatively, like disturbs your mind, you can't really concentrate, you can't do anything, you're always anxious and everything. And with that, once you have this mental imbalance, once mentally you are not okay, you are stressed, it will always affect your body, because there's always a direct relationship between the mental health and the physiological state. So every change in the mental emotional state, whether conscious or unconscious, is always accompanied by an appropriate change in the physiological state. So if you are not mentally or emotionally stable, maybe due to stressful situation, whether you know it or not, it will always have effect on your physiological state. And that is when you start having health problems, start maybe, fall sick and, things like that. But, and at times, because I've seen situations I've also heard where researchers, you go to maybe hospital, maybe even as a student, maybe master student or PhD student, you are studying, you are doing your projects and everything, and you tend to fall sick. You go to a hospital and the doctor, you complain, oh, I have this pain, I have that, I have this. The doctor will just look at you. I've seen several cases like that anyway. You just look at you, okay, oh, you are this, okay, don't worry. Just go home, take time out, rest, sleep, eat well, you'll be fine. And the people will be like, I'm sick, I'm not fine. I expect you to give me medication, just do the normal test, give me medication, tell me what to take. And the doctor will say, no, I don't need to give you any medication, just go and rest. So because at times some of these, professionals, they are trained to understand that whatever physiological problem you are having, health challenge, is not really maybe an infection or maybe a major problem. It's majorly your mental issue. So once they understand that, okay, you've been stressed, because at times they may ask some questions, okay, what have you done? What have you been doing? And things like that. And they understand that, okay, the health issues you have is not just about maybe you possibly being exposed to maybe an infectious agent or something like that. It's just about your mental state. So they'll tell you, go take a rest. So once you take a rest, you separate yourself from that, stressful situation. With time, your body will adjust back. So in that case, with time, when you do that often with time, you get to know when to fight or when to run away or when to, protect your mind and body from the stressful situation. Then one thing is to recognize or understand stress. Another thing is to be able to know what these, stress identities are. And in this, at this point, I'll, want to throw a question to the audience, because we are, we are different human beings. I mean, our, the way we relate, would, would definitely differ, from one person to the other. And the kind of research we do, the kind of research environment we find ourselves will also differ. You understand? There are some people you may belong to a large research group, while some you may just be a lone researcher, just working alone in the lab. You may even have other maybe lab members, but you tend to work individually and things. So there are different stress identities, and different people could experience at different times. So I don't know what your stress identities are or what stresses you as an individual, but I would like to get some maybe input from maybe one or two persons. Just think, okay, from what we've said so far, what do you think likely stresses you and all that? So maybe that can give us an understanding of possibly how to also relate with stressful situations and all that. So if you have, I mean, you can indicate by raising up your hand if you have something to say, just briefly. Just say what stresses you, I mean, it could be unique to you and it could also be common to other people. So it just indicates by raising, I mean, just indicate, then I will unmute you. Or if you want to put it in a chat, it's also okay. Is there anyone? Hello? Okay. Yeah, Abika, I can hear you.
Sir, what really stresses me is when I find out that I have too much to do at the same time. When I find out that it has been long I published last, I have some experiments to carry out, and I have a short period of time to do this. So when all come buzzing into my brain, I feel stressed.
Okay, sorry, somebody. Okay, sorry, Linda. Okay, somebody said. So I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay, Abika, can you hear me?
Hello.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yeah. I've experienced stress this like some few months now, 3 months, due to the fact that had to submit my thesis on time. The supervisor, so I was so stressed that I couldn't even sleep. There are some times that like the whole night I won't even sleep. So I've been stressed due to the time frame that I'm supposed to submit my thesis, and I didn't have enough time to write. But though I finally submitted. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. So Abika said something about having too much to do, while Linda, talked about kind of deadline to meet, you have to submit at a time and all that. Of course, those are very, very valuable, stressful situations. And when you have so much to do, the question is, how do you handle everything you have to do? I mean, when you have so much to do at the same time, how do you handle them? Very, very interesting. Do you prioritize, the activities? Okay, which one is of more importance, now? But then having too much to do at a time may not just be a problem that actually occurred at that time. It's more like, I would say more like the end stage of the problem. The question is, how early did you know about these different things you have to do? Because it all boils down to planning. When you plan ahead, you can Anyway, I'll get to that as we go on. Those are two viable questions I will, and when I get to the appropriate slides, I'll talk more about that. That's very interesting, having so much to do and having deadline to meet. So those are two very, very important situations that could stress the life out of us. I mean, I've also experienced things like that, so it's very, very interesting. So another thing again is, what about relationship with your PI? That could also be kind of stressed identity, apart from having so much to do, and deadline to meet, you can have problems with, relationship with your PI. So how do you manage such, relationship problem? Like, is the PI overbearing? Is the PI always somebody who wants, who always wants something done at a particular time? And even the issue of, having so much to do, deadline to meet, it can also result from the way the PI, supervises or maybe relates with the researcher or the whether graduate students under him or what. Because if a PI tells you, oh, I want this result at this time, and maybe you as a person, you have other things you have to do that you've already planned, for even maybe you've already had those things on your calendar, you have to do this at this time. And the PI just comes up from nowhere and tells you, oh, do this, do that. I need this answer, I need this result. And you find yourself, having to add that to your list of, to do activities. So it becomes very overwhelming. So how do you relate to the PI to let him know, oh, you have so much to do if he can give you some time? And another thing again is, there are some PI too that could maybe, for example, you are in the lab, at times you have to read, not, necessarily working on the bench all the time. And the PI comes around and sees you reading all the time, be like, what are you doing? Are you not supposed to be doing an experiment or things like that? So if the relationship between you and the PI is not the type that, oh, the PI understands that at times you need to sit down and read, at times you need to walk. You should be able to balance everything. Then the PI may be very, overbearing and, what it throws you around. And apart from that, there are some PIs that could be, some PIs could be very, very, in fact, it could be, a pain or a thorn on the flesh. That one is true. So if you have such PIs and you understand, maybe they can be very difficult to please or things like that. Some may not, some may even have their emotional problems and they try to transfer it to you and all that. So those things can, increase your stress level. But knowing how to manage, such relationship will help you, a long way. Then, of course, individually, there's always that pressure to achieve. So that pressure to do more to achieve, because, oh, we know in research, for you to be relevant, you have to be very productive, or you publish papers. Even in academia, as a lecturer, oh, fine, you have to be productive. You churn out, papers and all that for you to be able to, get, for you to get promoted as at when due and all that. So there's always that pressure to do much. And that alone is a form of, stress, on itself, because most times you don't even know when this whole thing overwhelms you and, start affecting your mental and emotional, states, and also your physiological, states too. Then it's a demand of, time demand, just like Linda talked about, when you have a particular deadline you have to meet, or you have to submit your thesis at this time, or you have to submit this manuscript at this time, or you have to complete this experiment at this time, things like that, the demands of time. And it's not just those experiments or whatever you want to do. There will always be other things, demanding for your time. Like your family could also demand for your time. Your spouse could demand for your time. Your children could demand for your time. Even relatives, even friends. A friend could have maybe a ceremony and tells you, oh, I need you to be here. Oh, this is my wedding ceremony, you have to be there. Oh, this is my birthday ceremony, you have to be there. Oh, we are doing this, you have to be there, and things like that. Then family members are telling you, oh, we need you, you need to do this, you need to do that. And your research is there, staring at you. So how do you manage everything within the time limits you have? So there's always that demand for time. So those things will always stress the hell out of you and all that. But how to handle it, we always go a long way to, help your mental health, I would say. Then how does stress manifest itself? Fine. it's good to identify what stress, what stresses you and all that. But then how does this stress manifest itself? And like I said too, individually, the way the stress manifests, also differ. So there are some people when they are stressed out, the way they behave to you, you know that this person is stressed. So if you are the understanding type, you just let them be and you don't take it against them. But before I go deep into that, I also want to get ideas from any of you, what individually stresses you, what you think from your own experience to what stresses you as an individual. So just indicates, then I'll unmute you. And we'll have to be fast about that, please, so that we don't spend too much time on this. Okay, anybody? So how does stress manifest itself? Any comments, any idea?
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So for me, I became segregated, like I stay in my room alone, and at times I just cry, then pick up, walk, and then at times I just pray. So I just keep doing that. Pray, cry, just stay alone.
Pray, cry. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Thank you very much. Abike, okay. Abike, you can go ahead.
Mine is somehow funny. When I'm stressed, I walk more.
Okay.
I
That's good.
tend to walk more when I'm stressed because I
That's
like console myself by doing more
more
work. And I
interesting.
find out that I won't be able to sleep. So when I can't sleep, I'll just feel I'm wasting my time and I work more. So I'll just like, what's wrong with me? So I'll now like, if I die today, I'll now like calm down. And I also cry. Sometimes I'll just start crying that what's wrong with me?
Interesting. Wow, that's interesting. So you cry and you walk, but so will it be safe to say, okay, when you find yourself walking more, crying at the same time, walking more, crying at the same time, will it be safe to say that yes, you are stressed? Will it be safe to say yes, you are stressed at that point, Abike?
Sir, that's what I notice.
Okay,
But not really lab work. I try to do like house chores.
yeah, of course.
That is what I do. I do house chores. When I'm stressed, I do house chores and I just continue working. I
Mhm.
continue working. Even things that are not relevant, I just continue working. But later, what's wrong with me? It seems I'm stressed. So
Mhm.
that's where I try to calm down.
Okay, that is good. That's quite interesting. And of course, it is an interesting thing because even at least I could relate with that very well because at times when I also get stressed, I have so much to do. Most times I tend to do more. And also for me personally, I found out over time that most times I tend to be more effective, when I'm stressed. I tend to do better, more like that, more like I work better under stressful situation. That's personally for me. And of course, it differs from, persons to persons. And also, like Linda said, feeling like, you just isolate yourself. And of course, with that, you cannot, and that's why even we as, also as maybe because we don't live in isolation. We have friends, we have relatives, we have colleagues, and we also have colleagues who are also researchers, even friends who are also researchers. And like somebody once said, okay, maybe you meet a friend, or you just ask the friend, oh, how are you? And the friend was like, I'm fine. And you know this person is a researcher, is a scientist. Just like, okay, maybe if I meet somebody like Abike, I know, okay, fine, by nature of what you do, you can be easily stressed. And I know you as a friend, I relate with you, I know how we relate, normally. Then I come to you, I'll be like, oh, how are you, Abike? You tell me, oh, I'm fine. Now I look at you again, I say, how are you? I'm fine. Then maybe I pose the same question the third time. How are you? And you can feel irritated. I said, I'm fine. Why you? Then I can tell that this person is stressed. You understand? Then you can tell. And that's why even as a scientist, we have to also check up on people, know what they are doing, how they are, especially when they are into so much, they are doing so much. You have to check on them and be sure that they are well. Because like, Linda said, somebody can be isolated because of stress. When you feel stressed, you isolate yourself. At times you can't help it. You cry. So at that point, you need what is called support group. Even as a friend, somebody, you are supposed to maybe do something and the person is not there. You hardly see this person. You just know that the person is isolating himself or herself. You reach out to the person. Oh, what is happening? There's a way you can help that person out of that situation, because being isolated, of course, is one, I'll say, one kind of a pointer to a stressful situation. You can tell that this person is actually stressed. So it's a very good way to know that somebody is stressed. So, and apart, there are different ways stress could manifest itself. There are some people, when they are stressed, they eat a lot. They eat a lot. So you see them, anything that comes their way, they eat. And at the end of the day, they get overweight, and it may also affect their health. So people tend to, respond to stress in a different way. While some people who are maybe over the years, they've been able to manage their stress situation. Once they are stressed, they can just take a break out of what they are doing, just go elsewhere, have fun and what have you. We'll still talk about that as we go. So, okay, let me see. Okay, so how do you deal with stress? I think that is the part we are looking at now. How do you deal with stress, dealing with stress? So, like we said so far, one thing is to understand, to know when you are stressed. Because as an individual, over time, you should be able to tell when you're under stress, when things are not working for you, when you are, you should be able to tell. And with time, you develop a kind of a management techniques, a kind of strategy to manage the stress. So just like when okay, when you are stressed, you isolate yourself. At times you pray, at times you cry. Then the question is, isolating yourself or maybe praying or crying, which one works better for you? Is it that after you isolate yourself, you pray, you cry? Do you get better after some time? Then, okay, if maybe when you are stressed, you walk more. So walking more, does it help you relieve that stress? Those are the questions you ask yourself. Then, okay, maybe some people, okay, when they are stressed, they just go out, leave their environment, maybe travel somewhere, go and have fun, or maybe just go hiking, go partying or what have you. Does it help the stress situation? Then some people, like I said, when they are stressed, they eat more. Eating more, does it help you? So with time, when you try, because over time, it's just normal life, stress comes, with time you overcome it, whether you know it or not, so you have a way of overcome, because like I always say, like we all know, problems don't last. Problems will always come, challenges will always come, but they don't last. They're always transient. So over time, you have to sit down, study yourself. When these stress situations come, how do I cope? Just understand your coping skills, your management techniques, which one will be more effective for you. So you take inventory of these different, approaches or techniques you've employed over time. Because the truth of the matter is, what works for me may not work for you. What works for A may not work for B. So we are all wired, differently. So the way we manage stress is always different. So I can decide, okay, because I'm stressed, I do more, or I read more, or maybe I tend to study more because I'm stressed and I tend to understand better. Somebody else may not do that, may not be able to do that. Somebody else, when the person is stressed, cannot even read. So there are different things. So you have to study your own technique. I mean, your coping skills over the years. What has been very helpful for you? How do you cope? Is it that, okay, when you are stressed, you need somebody to talk to you, or you need somebody to just be there for you to pour out your stress, pour out your anger, pour out your frustration on? Because there are some people like that. When they are stressed, when they are frustrated, all they need is just somebody to listen to them. And once there's somebody who understands them, okay, what is the problem? Talk to me. You don't even need to advise the person. Just the person pours out everything. Okay, if I understand. Oh, it is well. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Just relax. And the person will be okay. So understand which technique, is very effective for you. And, take inventory of that, document it so that at any time you are stressed, just know what to do so that you get out of that stressful situation as fast as possible. So for me, I feel that's one of the best way to deal with stress. Then another way you can look at it is balance various self needs. I mean, apart from our research and your professional needs, there are also spiritual needs. We also have physical needs. We have social needs. I mean, social needs in terms of friends. You have friends, you have companionship, both romantic needs and all that. So you should be able to balance all these needs together, because once you understand and you balance, I know it, of course, is easier to see. Practically it is very difficult to balance all these things, but you have to strive, you have to try. That's when you talk about mastery. You have to master yourself, strive and know how to balance all these different needs so that you don't get overwhelmed at the end of the day. So once you balance all these things, the friends you keep, how you relate with them, and the friends that are, good for your mental health, the friends that are good for maybe just your normal social life. I mean, because no matter, no matter who the person is, every friend you have will always have a positive impact on you and possibly a negative impact too. So you can look at your friends, categorize them. Okay, when I'm maybe socially down, who are the friends I, call that you can hang out with? Then when you are spiritually down, who are the people that can help you spiritually? Then when you are physically stressed or maybe you are tired, who are the people that can maybe help you to come back and to be, to come back to yourself? Like when maybe you are working, you are physically tired, who are the ones that can help you? Then the same thing, your professional life. Okay, when you're having issues with your research, your experiment is not going the way you planned it, or maybe you have a degree, you are pursuing a master's degree or a PhD degree, and your studies are not, it's not really going the way you expect. Oh, you write an exam and maybe the results didn't come out well the way you expect. Things are not just moving the way it should be, your professional life or your career. Then who are the people you look up to? Who are the people that can help you? And that's where you talk about mentors too. You can also have, professional mentors, spiritual mentors, and all that. So people like that, you should know the people you can, talk to, or people you can relate with that will help you out of that. And I can see something in the chat. Somebody said, for me, I just walk away for some time. You say, I would just take a few days trip and come back and the stress is gone. Very good. Now you're on for. So someone like Latifat who posted this, obviously you know that, yes, this works for you. And that is good. So if that works for you, then stick to it. So anytime you are stressed, quickly you hit, the iron, even before it gets hot. When it's cold, you quickly act. So you do that and you help yourself, a lot. Then I also have some questions here, about just three anyway, that, when we talk about, we try to balance things, professional life, spiritual life, physical, social, we try to balance things, which is the best way. But how do we know when we are doing too much or when we are doing too little? How do we know? And what can be realistically expected from us? Like, what are even we ourselves, what are our expectations? What are our realistic expectations? Because, somebody can say, okay, wow, I want to be a Nobel laureate the next 5 years. But if you think within yourself, you can, think back, look at yourself. Is this really realistic? You understand? I'm not against people setting good targets, good goals for themselves. It's good. I mean, set good targets, good goals, and you work towards it. You push yourself, you understand. But at times, you have to be very, very realistic to yourself. Is it possible to do that? When being realistic, it doesn't mean maybe you don't trust your own self or maybe your capability. But the question is the environment you are in, the environment you find yourself, will that environment help you to achieve that? So things like that. So I don't know, maybe I'll also throw that question to you. If you have any comment, like how much is too much, how much is too small, what can be realistically expected? So what are your ideas about these three items here on the screen? If anybody, you can just let me know. I will give you, I will unmute you so that I can talk. Just raise your hand, indicate that. You can also type in the chat. So how can you tell, when, when what you're doing is too much or what you have is too much or it's too little, or if what you are expecting is actually realistic? So how can you tell? Is it possible? Is it possible to tell? Any response? Just let me know. I will meet you straight away. Oh, let's start on time. So okay, so more like it is difficult to tell. I mean, it's always difficult to tell the boundaries between too much or too little. Like it is there's always a thin line between that. But from experience, yeah, you should be able to know when you are doing too much or when you are expecting too much from yourself, and also when you're expecting too little from yourself. I mean, with time, because like I said, it varies from individuals. It differs from persons to persons. Whatever works for, A may not work for B. So it's an individuality, but the point is understand when what you are doing is too much. I mean, understand when, uh, just understand, know when to draw the line. Because like I said earlier on, stress can be useful. It can be a friend, but it can also be a foe, an enemy. And there's always a thin line between being under stress that will propel you to do well, and also being overwhelmed by the same stressful situation. There's always a thin line. But with time, you can, you may be able to understand yourself and know when to draw the line, when to pause, when to take a break. So you can't really tell. So individually speaking, talking about too little or too much, I think it differs from persons to persons. And the realistic expectations also vary, differ from person to person. But the important thing is understand what is okay for you, what works for you, and what will not work for you. And and talking about dealing with stress, because I think that's a major thing here. How do we deal with stress? When dealing with stress, there are important things you need to note. When dealing with stress, there are important things you need to know. One is that understand the fact that the answer may be beyond your control. Because life is not logical. I mean, life does not yield to logic. I mean, logically, you can say, okay, you can sit back and say, okay, if I plan this experiment this way, oh, I design this experiment, I do this. If I do it this way, I buy this reagent, I do this, I do that. Oh, I'll get this results. Just like when you write a research grant, a research proposal, you state out your proposal, everything. Oh, the background of the study, your objective, your aim, the methodology you will employ, even your hypothesis, everything you state there, everything looks logical, looks clear. But life itself does not even yield to logic like that at times. So it may not work the way you plan it. You may try several experiments and everything. It may not work the way you plan it. But then, does it mean you are not doing well or you are a failure. No. At that point, you understand that the answer is beyond your control. And once you know what you are doing, because you do everything you're supposed to do, but what you're expecting is not coming forth. The answer may just be beyond you. So what you need to do is to control the what you can't control, which is maybe your experimental design, everything, how you do the research, even how you relate with people. You can control that, but you cannot control the way okay, let's say for example, you need to work with some group of people and you are doing a research, you relate with people. You can control the way you do what you are doing, but you cannot control the way other people will do their own parts. So that is beyond your control. But the thing is, you don't worry much about that. Don't worry much about others. Control what you can control and worry less about others. It will help you a lot. It will help you manage the stress. So, and also when you're applying the experiment, you don't just go all out to design the big experiment and do everything at a time, because it may not go the way you plan. That's why we talk about pilot experiment. You do a pilot experiment where you do a kind of miniature aspect of the experiment, just plan, work with few samples or few maybe animals if you are working with animals, or maybe with few objects, if depending on your type of research. Just a small experimental setup. Just do it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then you can modify your methodology with time. You keep changing things, you keep modifying the process until you get it right. So until you get it right before you move into the bigger experiment, because when you are doing this smaller pilot experiment and it's not working, you have to modify, you have to change, you have to optimize your procedure, your protocols and everything. You have to change reagents because the reagents you buy, the reagents you use are not working. At times you may use antibodies that may not even give you results and everything. So you keep changing. So when you do a pilot experiment, you do something small, it will be easier to, cope. It will be easier to just overlook things when things are not working well. It will be easier to manage than when you set up the bigger experiment and things don't go the way you plan. It can be very, very stressful. It can be very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. So you will want to avoid that frustrations. You start by doing something small, and if it doesn't work, you keep modifying, you keep thinking, you keep changing the procedure until you get it right. But doing it at the smaller scale will be easier to manage the stress, associated with it, compared to when you start, on a bigger, scale like that. Then when dealing with stress, also understand one thing, that ideas often, originate from the 8th dimension, 8Ds. Like when I say 8D, is more like 8 disciplines of problem-solving methodology. More like, is just a kind of technique where you try to solve problems. Depending on your field, problems can come in any way. Then you try to solve. When you try to solve the problems, you come up with different methodologies, different approaches. So when you do that over time, as you are trying to solve different problems, you are trying to modify your experimental setup. You are trying to modify what you are doing, changing methodologies and everything. As you are doing all that, good ideas may come up from there. That, oh, why don't I do it this way? Why don't I try this? So good ideas normally originate from you trying to solve problems. And another best way to solve problem in any field is read, everything that is interesting in your field, every interesting thing you can find, not just everything, not just about your work alone. Every interesting things around, around what you are doing, read about them. You have to read a lot, whether in your field or outside your field. And when you read different things, interesting things, even at random, even things that are outside your field, with time, different ideas will start, ruminating, your mind and everything, because you are exposed, you are widely read, you read about it, a lot. You have different ideas. Ideas can come from different places, even outside your field. You can start thinking, okay, what if I do this way? What if I try this? Then the question is, oh, ideas will come. But another thing, again, when these ideas come, you have to subject them to what we call the coolness test. And the coolness test is just relax about the idea and ask yourself, fine, these ideas, is it worth knowing the answers? Because ideas can come in form of questions. Okay, what if I do this? What if I do that? What will happen? Then you ask yourself, is it worth, do I need to know the answer to this? Because at times some kind of funny ideas can come and you feel, okay, it's a good idea, you embark on it, you want to find out, you want to answer the question, and you end up wasting your time, wasting your resources and everything. So you have to sit back and ask yourself, okay, is this idea really worth it? Do I need to know the answer? And if I need to know the answer, how will it help my career? How will it help my being? How will it help me physically, socially, emotionally, or what have you? So you subject that to that. Then one thing again about someone said that, okay, when you are stressed, you work more. And there are some people, when they are stressed, they tend to read more. You can read something outside your field, and you can also read just to relieve the stress. I mean, it works for many people anyway. So reading can be relaxing. And of course, if you are, everybody on this platform, we know we are, into research, academia or things like that. So if individually you don't find reading relaxing, then I'm sorry to say you're in the wrong profession. That is the truth. You're in the wrong profession, because as far as you are as far as you're a scientist, you are in science, you have to find really reading relaxing. You have to, try and make it, use reading a form of relaxation, technique for you, because you have to read. If you don't read, you can't even, you can't even go far as a scientist. So you can read more, read outside your field. It could be relaxing and helpful. Then another important thing is you can be a mental, when you say mental athlete, there's one thing about athletes that I found, if you have some athletes as friends, and you relate with them, they always tell you one thing, that maybe during exercise or during training or when they are running or playing football or what have you, there's always that point they get to where they feel so pain that the body will shut down, like they cannot go further. And most times always at the beginning. But with time, constant training, experience, and will, they know that at that point, they have to push through that wall, because it's more like a wall. So they have to push through it. So when they push through it, then the body will yield to everything and work well. They do well and they come out well. So there's always that point when the body will be faced with that wall. So even as a researcher, as a scientist, there's always a point where we have this kind of mental wall we face. So where you are thinking, nothing seems to be working, your brain seems not to be functioning, ideas are not coming, things are not even coming out. If you just stay back and feel, oh, I don't think I can go further, of course you'll be defeated. But as a researcher, as a scientist, you have to be a mental athlete, in the sense that once you come across that wall, you don't need to back out. You have to go through it. So you be a mental athlete who struggle with difficult concept until you hit a wall and keep thinking. So you can be thinking about a research idea and nothing seems to be coming forth. You just have to, no matter how difficult this concept is, you just have to break through that wall. You keep thinking until you hit the wall, definitely. But you keep thinking until you go through it. Once you're able to go through that wall, then ideas will come. You'll be able to do what you are supposed to do. Then another important thing is you have to be your support group or system, because at times people may not really care about what you are passing through, what you are doing. We have to be realistic to ourselves. You have to tell yourself the truth. At times people don't care, and you won't blame them, because they also have their own issues they are dealing with. So you have to be your support group. Like, although if it was Linda who said, okay, at times when you are stressed, you isolate yourself, you cry, you pray. Of course, when you isolate yourself, it may even be more difficult, because, nobody is there to console you. Nobody is there for you to talk to. But then, how do you cope? You have to be your own support system. Of course, it's good to have support group, have friends, people you hang out with, people who relate with you, people who will always help you, like when you are stressed. mean, you can just go out with people, have fun and everything. But what if you have a situation where the people around you, they too, they are, passing through their own stress. They have things they are dealing with. You just have to be your own support system. Very, very well. Understand as a researcher, if you're a researcher and you feel that the stress is overwhelming, look into some other career choice. And I'll say that because it does not get easier. If it's okay, because you are in research, you're always overwhelmed with stress and you're always complaining. You have to change career. You have to change career. I'm sorry to say, because the truth of the matter is, as far as you're a scientist, you're a researcher, it doesn't get easier. Forget about it. It doesn't get easier. At times you may think, okay, fine, if I get this position, once I become a senior lecturer or once I become a professor, then it will be easier. Sorry, it doesn't get easier. Or you can say, okay, once I have my lab, I'm a PI, I'm in control of myself. Sorry, it doesn't get easier, because every stage, every professional stage has its own challenges and it comes with its own stress. So it doesn't get easier. So the fact that you are a scientist and you want to grow as a scientist, understand that it doesn't get easier. So you have to be your own first support system. Know how to support yourself. Know how to help yourself when you find yourself in a stressful situation. Know how to help yourself first before you start thinking of people, who will come around and help you. For example, you can decide, okay, when you are stressed, just take time out, play some games. You can go play tennis. You can go play football. You can go play, there are many games you can play, both indoors and outdoors. Just go, even if nobody's there to, play with you, just go. You can just walk around, go to a park, go to maybe a field, a stadium, just go sit down, savor the fresh air, enjoy yourself, look at beautiful, just walk around. So you have to strategize, know the technique that works for you, because understand that it doesn't get easier. So you have to be your support system. And when you're in science, you know that you are doing it because you can't bring yourself to do anything else. You have to understand that fact that as a scientist, you are doing it because that is what you want to do. You can't do anything else. So once you understand that as a scientist, research is what you want to do and you don't want to do anything else, that is the first thing, to be easier for you to cope with any stress that comes with it. Because when you find yourself in a profession that you really love to do, this is a profession you love and you find yourself in it, you are passionate about it, it will be easier to cope when you are faced with stressful situations. But if you go into a profession because, this person said I should do this, or my parents said I should do this, or you just want to please people, or you feel, okay, this profession is prestigious, I just want to be there, but that zeal is not there, you are not really passionate about it, when you are faced with stressful situation, you will back out. So before you embark on research, you start with, you have to know that, yes, that is what you want to do. And when you are into that research, when you are doing it, understand one thing, that people's opinion don't make any difference, don't count. You don't get to a point where you want to get validation from people, like, am I doing well? Am I doing right? Am I on the right track? Am I, good enough? No, you don't need that. You don't need anybody's validation. Just do what you have to do. Do it well. Be good at what you're doing. You don't need anybody's validation. You don't need people's opinion, because at times people's opinion can also be a problem for you. So, and in science, there's nothing like you do it or there's nothing like you try. It's either you do it or you don't do it. If you don't want to do science, you get out of it. If you want to do it, then go all in and do it. There's nothing like, I want to try. No, it doesn't work that way. So understanding that, one, science is either you do it or you don't do it. Understanding that people's opinion don't matter. Understanding that, yes, you have to do it because you don't want to do anything else. And also understanding that things don't get easier along the line will help you manage whatever stress that comes along. That will help you manage them. So understand that. Very, very important. Then, of course, multitasking is very, very important, because like you said, okay, someone said you have to work more when you are stressed. So when you are, as a scientist, multitasking is inevitable, because apart from your research, there are other things that will beg you for your attention. There are many researchers, many scientists who are into, administrative, activities too, like maybe they do other administrative jobs or, teaching and what have you. So you should be able to balance everything along with your research. So the more we do, the more we realize we have to do. So the more you do, the more you get to do. So it doesn't change, it doesn't reduce. So the higher you go in the scientific, ladder, in the professional ladder, the more you have to do. So you have to learn to multitask. You have to learn to do a lot at the same time. That is one truth. And when multitasking, you have to understand how to balance these things and manage your mental health too. And another funny thing is, at times when we multitask, there's always a tendency to ignore things that don't come with a deadline. We feel, okay, this one does not have a deadline, just leave it. You only focus on the ones that have a deadline. No. At times, some of these things that don't come with deadlines can, matter at the long run. They can really count for you at the long run. So, and apart from that, devote time to your research. You just have to devote time, make out time to do your research very well, because that will help you. The more time you have for your research, the better your mental health. Then I'll say, like I said, stress may work for your good. So when when you are stressed, you can understand what the stress is all about, and tailor it towards your own good. So, and of course, stress is a byproduct of our evolutionary history, in the sense that over time, over history, man has evolved. If you check the evolutionary ladder, different organisms tend to evolve based on their ability to fight, their ability to fend for themselves, and their ability to defend themselves, and also interbreed. At least we are all scientists, we know what evolution is, how organisms evolve from one to the other, at least from what we're taught in biology. And most times, the higher organisms, they tend to have some kind of comparative advantage over the lower ones, in the sense that they can adapt to more stress, they can adapt to the environment better, they can crossbreed better. So over the evolutionary history or ladder, you see the higher organisms having better coping skills. So that's where we come in as humans. So as humans, we've already been equipped with that ability to manage stress, to fight for ourselves, fend for ourselves, protect ourselves, and everything. So always know that. But then chronic stress can be detrimental to your health, but a little stress can be good, like we said earlier on. So always know when to balance it. Then the goal is this: you cannot eliminate stress. Just know it and have peace. You cannot do without stress. You cannot avoid stress in your life. Even if you are not a scientist, you cannot avoid stress. Know it and know peace. Then what you need to do is to master it. You just have to master it. You cannot avoid it. You have to master it. Then, of course, when you are stressed, you can decide to be happy. You can decide to be sad. Like I'll say, to me, fine, you can decide to cry, but it's a choice. Happiness is a decision, it's not a condition. You can decide to be happy, no matter how stressful the condition is. Like, you can decide, okay, you are being stressed, you can decide just take a break out of it, go to one party, go and enjoy yourself. Like, for example, in Nigeria, I know there's one common thing at times, especially on weekends like this, on Saturdays like this. If you go around everywhere, you must see one marriage. You must see a marriage. You must see a venue where a marriage ceremony is going on, or maybe a reception, what have you. You can decide to just, when you are stressed, you've worked throughout the week, your experiment is not working, your research is not going the way it is. On a weekend, just wear your clothes, dress very well. You can't get crash into any marriage ceremony. They will serve you well. You enjoy yourself. Yeah, I can tell you for experience, because I've done something like that before and it worked well for me. I'm telling you, I just dressed up, wore my native attire. I entered, and funny enough, they treated me well, they served me well, as if I was an invited guest. I enjoyed myself. When I got home, I was relieved. So when you are stressed, you can decide to be happy. Just go anywhere. You can go and play games. Just go and play tennis. Forget about the damn thing. Let it take care of itself. Just go have fun. Enjoy yourself, Then, so it's a decision you have to take, and it will help you a lot. So in between all the stress, all the frustrations, all the challenge, don't forget to have fun. That's what I'll say. Don't forget to have fun. Have fun as much as you can. As far as I know, that is the best way to manage stress. Just go have fun. And I know fine in Nigeria, of course, it's possible. Of course, here in the US, I've never done that. I've never seen anything like that. I know it's a different ball game entirely here, but then understand your environment, understand what you can do. But I mean, just go have fun. However, you know, it is, just go have fun, enjoy yourself. I think that's one of the best. And I'll conclude by saying research can be very frustrating and stressful. What you need to do is to identify the sources of stress in your scientific life, identify it, then develop effective stress management techniques, develop it and cope with it. And like I said, I will say it again. As far as you are a scientist, in fact, as far as you are alive as a human being, you cannot avoid stress. Just know it and know peace. What you need to do is to develop effective techniques how to manage your stress. And no matter what you do, if the stress is becoming overwhelming, my dear friend, go and have fun. Just go and have fun. Go enjoy yourself. I mean, life is for the living. Go and have fun, okay? So with that, I'll say thank you very much for your attention. And I'll also acknowledge that Dr. Philip, though is not on, but we'll see it later. I appreciate him for, you know, coming up with these ideas and this platform, and also all the, you know, mentors on this platform for their exemplary, you know, work and their contributions and their mentorship, you know, abilities and all that. Therefore, the mentees, I'll say thank you very much for, you know, always making our time to attend these events, and also, you know, making yourself available for we, the mentors, to interact with and see how we could also, you know, help too. So thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for your attention. So if there are any questions, anything you want to talk about, fine, can have some time to take, you know, questions from you. So thank you very much. And if you have any question, just let me know. I'll unmute you, then you can talk. I mean, we've already talked about the stress. Now it's time to just have fun. I mean, you can talk about any fun thing you used to do, like when you are stressed, what you used to do, what are the fun things you like doing, even if you are not stressed. Okay, what are the things you like doing as, you know, maybe recreational activities, or more like, you know, relax. I mean, anything that relaxes your mind. I mean, we can talk about that. It's still part of the fun. Okay. So anybody, I'll unmute you right away. Okay. So for me, okay. So any question, maybe I should so any question, please? I'm trying to see if but I hope you can still see the slides, right? Hello? Oh, what is okay, sorry. Okay, maybe I should just unmute everybody. You can talk. Yeah, you can talk. Feel free. I'm meeting.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you too.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, most times when I'm stressed, I usually go to I take my phone, go to social media handles, Facebook, Instagram. But before I know it, it will take more of my time, even spending hours there. So how do I manage these social media handles so that it doesn't take so much of my time?
Okay. Yeah. The first question I'll ask you is, when you spend the time on the social media, after that, after the hours you spend on WhatsApp, does it help you after that? Do you feel relieved? Do you feel
Yes,
better after that?
yes, I do.
You feel
I
better?
do. Yes, I do. But my concern is that most times I overstay there.
The interesting thing that I always know is when you're having fun, time is never enough. When you're having fun. So, but then it's a good thing. I think the important thing there is you feel relieved after that. That's the important thing. So it is now left for you to be able to also manage this stress management technique you have. You also have to manage so that you don't, abuse it also, or don't waste too much time on it. So you can decide, okay, fine. Okay, I don't want to spend more than 1 year on social media. I'm sorry, I said 1 year. So I don't want to spend more than 1 hour. You can time yourself. I don't want to spend more than 1 hour or maybe 2 hours. I mean, you can time yourself. Okay, after this time, I will stop. It also comes with discipline. You have to discipline yourself that, oh, after this time, I will leave the social media. You understand? So once it is time, you log off. You understand? So once it's time, so it's a good thing that is helping you, relieve yourself. That's the truth. It's a good thing. But you also have to know when to stop. You have to know when to stop. Okay. And sorry if I may ask, do you still is my screen still? I mean, is my slide still visible?
Installing the other time, one of your students.
Is my slide visible?
Your slide is still there, sir.
Okay, let me remove it. Okay,
that he married one girl. The girl was
oh my God.
New York. I remember that day.
Where is that?
Outside of that, what do you need from New York? Yeah, what's it called?
I have to mute. Let me mute everybody because
somebody made a mistake.
Okay, I think that's okay. So if you want to send it, just raise up and I mean, just indicate, then I'll say that. And let me see. Somebody posted in the chat that how would you know if stress is leading to depression? Because some students have become depressed, have mental disorder, and some commit suicide. See mostly amongst Asians, though. Yeah, that's a good question. And at least I'm happy with, I like the fact that you put a bracket that, okay, it's common among Asians anyway. I think that's where we talk about, social difference, you understand? Because we Africans, the way our society is structured is different from the way their society is structured. And also it's different from the way the society here in the US is structured, in the Europe and everywhere. These societies are different. And in Africa, we have this kind of communal life, you understand, where as an individual, there are always people around you, families, both immediate families, extended families, members are always around. So there are people who can always serve as a support group for you. So that's why, like you said, like you rightly said, it is not common among Africans, although it's there, but it's not a common thing like an epidemic or something like that. Because when you are depressed, when you are stressed or you are tending towards depression, the person next to you may be able to know. And that's why I said, for example, in the course of our discussion, I said maybe you meet somebody, you ask the person, guy, how are you? And the person was like, oh, I'm fine. And look at the way the person responded. He's not really giving you that vibe, They ask the person again, how are you? Are you fine? Say, I'm fine. Then you feel somehow worried. No, this person is not talking to me. I think there's a problem. Then you ask the person, okay, I've not seen you for some days now. Maybe you are talking to the person on the phone. I've not seen you for some days now. I mean, we've been looking for you. Are you sure you are fine? And the person snapped back at you. I said, I'm fine. Then immediately you can tell that, no, there's a problem. What you need to do is to go and visit the person. Just go and meet the person. What's the problem? Drag the person out of his or isolation and, help. So in a place like in our own kind of society, there are people you can run to. So once a student is tending towards depression, the first thing the person needs to do is to stay out of isolation. No matter how bad it is, you must have friends, people. That's why I say you have to be deliberate in choosing your circle of friends. As a scientist, you have to be deliberate, even as every individual, as a student, because I think that should be, I feel to a point, I think it should be part of the orientations they give to students when they get into the university, for example. Well, even in secondary schools, as a student, I think they should give them this orientation where you have to keep a good circle of friends in case of anything. So even if you don't know it, when you are being stressed, you are tending towards depression, you don't want to relate with anybody, they can fish you out and know that yes, there's a problem, and they will drag you out of that depression, because it's easier to just go into depression if you are isolated. That's the truth. But when you are with people around you who share the same ideology with you, that's why I say you have to be deliberate and strategic in choosing your circle of friends. People you know that yes, when you are physically down, these are the people you can go to. They'll tell you, oh, let's go and play football, let's go and play tennis, or let's go and play Ludo, or let's go and dance, Then you know people that if you are spiritually down, you know people you can meet with, oh, fine, let's go and pray together, let's go and worship, or let's go and do this, let's go and do that, or let's go for picnic. And when you are emotionally down, there are people you can talk to. Then if maybe your maybe relationship, maybe your romantic relationship, you're having problem with your partner and everything, I mean, there are still some people you should be able to talk to that will help you. So as a student, when you know you are tending to, I mean, you say, how would you know if stress is leading to depression? Of course, when you are stressed and every little thing maybe pisses you off, tends to make you angry, you start losing interest in everything, and you always want to isolate yourself. I mean, from there, with time, you should know that no, you are tending towards depression as an individual. But it's not really easy as an individual to be able to know to be able to differentiate between the two, or to be able to tell when they are tending towards depression. It only comes with experience. People who are well experienced, they know. And once they know that, they quickly seek for counsel, they quickly look out for people they can talk to, people they can play with and everything. So that is one thing. Then I know, of course, their society is different, because if you look at, outside Africa, most other society like in Europe, and in maybe US or even the Asians, most times they tend to live in isolation. Most times they live in isolation. So it is easier for them to tend towards depression because they're always isolated. Like when we were in Germany, before I moved to the US, I mean, the years I spent there, I mean, at a point, I was almost tending towards, being lonely, because that is the way the society is structured. People tend to live alone and, be lonely. And it's not always common to see people come together, although they do. And it's more common among we Africans who are there, because at times we tend to organize events that brings us together, although it has its own issues anyway. But then that was one of the ways we could cope with, managing stress in such environment. So there's always, like, okay, I'll say, for example, okay, let me give you a practical example. When we go to Germany at first, the first thing we did was to look for a church. That is our own anyway. It may not be applicable to other people. We look for a church where there are Nigerians and other Africans. And within the first week, we joined them. It was very easier for us to cope. I mean, they gave us orientation to those things to do, things not to do, how to cope and everything. And we always had them as friends. So it was easier despite the depressing nature of the system there. So we now realized that if we had come there as an individual person, nobody to relate with, we just, decide, okay, well, if I want to avoid everybody, we want to avoid Nigeria because we don't know who is coming with village people, wahala and everything, want to stay alone. You won't know when you start, going to depression because of the challenges you face. So the first thing is have a good support group around you. Be your support system. Have a good support system around you. Have good circle of friends or colleagues. They you share the same ideology, the same mindset and everything. Who you can always count on, and having good mentors too can also help. That is a little suggestion I'll give about that. So I don't know if that answers your question or if you have any another concern, Linda. Or maybe I should unmute it again. So Linda, you are
Yes,
muted.
I answer my questions. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yeah, one thing I was asking, because I was in South Korea and those people, the way they behave. So they most of the time they take sleeping pills to sleep well. And when you find among them, they commit suicide a lot. A lot. And at least in Africa, we manage because we have even neighbor, you can greet a neighbor, you can enter anybody's house. So thank you so much. This has really helped, and at least we can use it to also help others.
Of course.
Thank you, sir.
Trying to quickly, my battery is indicating low, or to quickly connect my battery. So. Okay. So, okay, thank you very much. I just discovered that my battery is running low, so I had to quickly charge it. So I mean, plug it to the power source. So thank you. Okay, yeah, thank you for that. And like you rightly said, it is very common among them because of the kind of system they have, the kind of environment. Of course, in Africa, for example, in our country, Nigeria, for example, that's my country anyway. I know it's also applicable in other African countries because I have friends from other African countries who relate. I know how it is. There will always be people around you. You don't even need to take sleeping, whatever. In fact, at times to even sleep is, I think I don't know, but I know to a large extent, there are always people around. There are always people you can play with. So that alone helps you psychologically. And that's what one advice I would give any student from Africa going outside the continent to study. You need to, once you get there, the first thing you need to do, identify an African group, because our way of life is different. Our culture is different. Our tradition is different. Our culture does not really, our culture kind of help us fight this depression thing to a large extent. It may not be perfect, but it helps. So look for responsible people. I know there are, people with issues everywhere. There are people with questionable characters and all that. But you have to be strategic. You have to be very, very careful. So just the same way there are good ones around, just look for the good ones that will help you. Just, create that friendship, have that, community around you, because it will help. It will really help. Once you have that community around you, it will help you fight against anything, stress or depression. So thank you very much for that. Any other question or comments? Any other question or comments? Just indicate by raising up your hand, then call you. Another comment or questions or okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. I sincerely appreciate this lecture.
Welcome. No, can
This
hear you.
best
Go
lecture.
ahead.
So this depression of a thing is really, really affecting that. For recent, one thing I just discovered that
Sorry, we can't hear you well. I can't hear you well. Maybe you can move your speaker closer, please.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I really appreciate this lecture.
Okay, thank you.
The depression is really, really, I'm really, really suffering from that. Go about it and make a better form of myself. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so it's like it was at the last part I heard you well. At the middle of the middle part, I didn't really get. I didn't really hear. It's like your audio was really fluctuating or something like that. I don't know if you can call me, or maybe you can type it in the chat. Anyone?
No, I just appreciate Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Or maybe you can type it, but at least from what I can hear, maybe it's more like how do you cope when faced with stress or something like that. Hello? Mhm. Hello? I didn't really hear what. Okay, anyway, what I'll say maybe from the little I could get is when faced with, stressful situations like that, or, when most, because at times, you know it when you are stressed. That is the truth. Because most times you tend to feel discouraged, especially when things are not working the way you expect, things are not going the way you expect, and there's always that pressure, that challenge, and you feel stressed, you feel like, oh, nobody cares. Oh, at times you may feel, okay, you're a failure, you're not doing well, you're not doing well enough, and things like that. I mean, one rule of thumb is first is to understand that yes, you are under stress, and understand that the some of these things are beyond your control. That is the truth. Because the truth of the matter is, if what stresses you is within your control, you will stop it. So most times, what stresses you most times are always beyond your control. So once you understand is that these things are beyond your control, just take time out, leave it. Because one thing I personally do at times is when things get overwhelming, stressful, and it's as if no things are not moving, at times I just ignore them. I ignore them personally. And with time, it works because one thing I know that I've come to realize in this life, one thing I've come to realize personally is that when you leave things to chance, to time, most times they tend to resolve themselves. That's the truth. So at times when situations come, you are worried, oh, how do I cope? How do I? If you can take time, just ignore that situation. You'll be surprised, you'll be amazed that the thing will resolve itself. And I realize that most times what we bother ourselves about, what we worry ourselves about, most times don't even come up. They are not even realities. Most times our fears are not, most times the fears the things we fear, the things we worry about, most times don't even materialize. So, of course, it cannot be, true all the time. But most time for me, I just ignore it. Control the ones you can control, the ones you cannot control, forget about it. If it becomes too much, look for a way, go and have fun. Go enjoy yourself, play games. Forget about it. Instead of sitting down, isolated, sulking, and pushing yourself towards depression, just leave that environment. Go have fun, just go relax, chill. Because life will go on. Whatever happens, life will go on. So just go enjoy yourself, okay? So any other question or comments? If not, the co-host, Abike, can, maybe round up for us if there's no other question or concern. So I hand over to Abike. Over to you, Abike. Hello,
Okay,
Abike.
it's like
Okay, go
she's not on
ahead.
call. So thank you very much for the wonderful session, sir. Really appreciate.
Welcome. Okay. So I think the co-host Abike can round up for us, and let's maybe close it. Oh, is she still with us?
I'm not sure about that. It's like
Okay.
it's
Okay, fine. You can round up then. You can round up since.
okay. Okay, is in the absence of no other questions, so I would like to thank the speaker for his wonderful session, for the wonderful session. So really thank you for all you've done. At least we're able to learn more about what anxiety is all about, how we can tackle anxiety and all of that. We really appreciate. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much too. So you guys should have fun, enjoy your weekend, go catch some fun. Don't overstress yourself, okay? So at the end, we'll end it here. Thank you very much and have a nice day or nice evening as it is over there. Bye.